My name is Eleanor Hayes. I am 62 years old, and if you look at me now, you would never guess that once I was a victim, a prisoner, and later, a victor. Today I live in a small rented apartment in a quiet street. But once, I owned a beautiful Victorian house in San Francisco. It was my treasure, my family's legacy, given to me by my beloved parents. I have one daughter, Chelsea. She was always beautiful, clever, and full of life. She even graduated from UC Berkeley. I was so proud of her. But she made a terrible mistake. She married a man named Mitch Davis. Mitch was a charmer. He smiled, he talked big, and he promised the world. But he gave nothing, only problems and debt. He never had a proper job. He loved to say he was a visionary entrepreneur, always waiting for money to start a new app. That money never came. But his demands never stopped. Chelsea and Mitch moved into my big house. They treated it like a free hotel. They paid no rent. They ignored the high house fees and the endless city taxes. I was 60 years old, working long shifts at Safeway as a cashier, just to cover the bills. While I worked, they lived in comfort and slowly ruined the home I loved. Mitch acted like he owned the world. My Thanksgiving turkey was too dry. The old oak floors were not modern. My garden was ugly. He insulted everything I had built, everything that was part of my parents' gift. The pressure grew. I begged my daughter. I told her, Chelsea, he is lazy. He will bankrupt us. He will destroy the house. But she defended him. She said, he has big dreams. He just needs one good investor. I watched her become a shadow of herself. She was no longer my proud, happy girl. She was living only for him, ignoring my pain. The breaking point came one cool evening. Mitch arrived with a lawyer. He told me we must use my house as collateral for a big loan for his startup. My heart was beating fast, but I said firmly, no. This is my legacy. I will never allow it. Mitch gave me a greedy smile. He said if I did not sign the papers by Friday, my life would become a living hell. And then came the worst moment. Chelsea, my brilliant daughter, stood behind him. She did not look at me. She just stared at her expensive bag and said nothing. That silence cut deeper than a knife. Life became unbearable. They threw loud parties during the week, filling the house with noise. They wasted money on high utility bills. Mitch even took my car keys, saying he needed my Toyota to meet investors. I had to take the crowded bus to work while he drove my car. I was a prisoner in my own house, the house of my parents. One morning, Chelsea came to me with tears on her face. She looked around to check Mitch was not near. She told me he had threatened to leave her with nothing if she could not convince me to sign. I held her in my arms, but inside I felt only sadness and disappointment. My poor daughter was being used. He wanted the house, not her. That same day, I decided to act. I called an Uber and went to see an old friend, Mr. Gerald Stern, or simply Jerry. Jerry was a retired real estate lawyer, very clever, who knew all the tricks of the city's legal system. I told him everything. He listened carefully, sipping his coffee. Then he asked me, "Eleanor, do you still have the original deed of the house?" I answered, "Yes, it is in a safety box at Wells Fargo." His eyes lit up. He told me we would not fight them in the open. We would win quietly. "We will give them the house," he said, "but not in the way they think." The next week, I called Mitch and Chelsea to the house. I acted tired, defeated, broken. I told them I would sign the papers. Mitch almost jumped with joy. He was so sure of his victory, so sure of his clever lawyer, that he barely even read the documents. He trusted my surrender. He trusted that he had finally won. I signed the papers. Mitch and Chelsea soon received their big loan. The first thing they did was move out of my Victorian home and into a modern, expensive penthouse with a view of the Golden Gate Bridge. They told me kindly, "Thanks, Mom. You can move to a cheap place. We'll send you money." They sent me one small payment, $500, and then nothing. I moved into a plain little apartment. I felt like a failure. I had lost my childhood home. I had lost the place that held my parents' love. But Jerry, my friend and lawyer, gave me hope. He told me, "Wait, Eleanor. This story is not finished yet." 4 months later, Mitch's great startup collapsed. It was nothing more than a fake project. The bank demanded repayment of the loan. And the bank wanted the collateral, the house. Mitch called me, shouting with panic. He screamed, "Mom! The bank is taking the house. Do something." I answered calmly. "Why are they taking it, Mitch? You said you were a visionary." He shouted again, "You signed the papers. It's your fault." I asked him only one question. Did I, Mitch? A few days later, Jerry sent me a package. Inside was a copy of the contract. Hidden under my signature was a special note. It said the loan was connected only to the structure of the house, the walls, the roof, the fixtures. The land, the foundation, was still mine. The bank took the building and sold it at auction to cover the huge debt. Mitch and Chelsea lost everything. The penthouse was gone. The car was gone. Their credit was ruined. They had no home and no money. One day they came back, desperate. They stood on the empty land that was still mine. Mitch looked broken. He begged me to help. Chelsea stood beside him, her expensive clothes looking foolish against the dirt. For the first time, her eyes showed true regret. I looked at Mitch and told him, "You thought you could take everything from me. But you forgot, the land is always the foundation." I did not help him. He had to face the result of his own greed. But I looked at Chelsea. I told her, "You are my daughter. You may come live with me. But you must leave Mitch. And you must get a real job." That same afternoon, Chelsea divorced him. It was painful, but she finally chose herself. She found a job at Starbucks, working hard, saving money, and rebuilding her life. She moved into my small apartment. It is simple, but now it is full of peace, respect, and real love. But the story was not over. 1 year later, I received a letter from a San Francisco law firm. At first I thought it was another bank notice. But it was something else. During the sale of the old house, workers had found a sealed wooden box hidden in the chimney. Inside were Gold Rush-era documents and maps, over 150 years old. Because I still owned the land, the box belonged to me. The maps were worthless, but the legal papers revealed something incredible. My great-great-grandfather had made a trust more than a century ago. A small percentage of profit from a gold mining company was tied to my land. The agreement was old but still valid. I was suddenly a multi-millionaire. Jerry laughed and cried when I told him. The papers were so ancient and so hidden that no one had seen them for 100 years. And it was Mitch, with his endless greed, who had caused the bank to find them. His plan to steal from me had uncovered a fortune that would have stayed hidden for decades. I used the money well. I set up a college fund for my future grandchildren. I bought the land next to my small apartment and built a modest new home, fully paid for, where Chelsea and I could live in peace. For Mitch, I had only one last message: greed takes the house. Integrity keeps the gold. I am Eleanor Hayes. I am living proof that patience, preparation, and a good lawyer can turn betrayal into a multi-million-dollar inheritance. And now, I ask you, what do you think of my story? Did I deserve this ending after everything Mitch did? Share your thoughts in the comments. And please like this video, share it, and subscribe for more stories.